Congressman, I want to talk to you a little bit about the long-term reputational consequences for the U.S. military. If you look at polling over time about Americans' views of various institutions, the media, Congress, the presidency, big businesses, etc., the military is one of the few institutions that remains above water, that Americans still say they trust in to do the right thing. Between these acts off of Venezuela and the deployment of the National Guard into U.S. cities, among other attempts to politicize various parts of the U.S. military, what do you think this does to the reputation of our armed services and to Americans' trust in this institution to do the right thing?
It's incredibly harmful. And as a proud Marine Corps veteran, it really bothers me. If you look at those numbers over time, they've come down dramatically since 2016, since the first Trump administration, because Trump himself has never had any respect for the military. Remember, this is the man who made fun of John McCain, a true hero of the Vietnam War, for getting captured. And he's disparaged our troops on many other occasions. And then he selects in his second term a Secretary of Defense who wrote a book. He literally wrote a book as a Fox News anchor on how to politicize the military. So Trump thinks of the military as a tool for his own benefit, as a political tool to wield against his foes. And he's hired a Secretary of Defense who's totally subservient to that idea and is carrying that out before our eyes. It's incredibly harmful to the long-term reputation of the U.S. military.
Congressman, as you point out, Pete Hegseth had very much made his opinions on war criminals well known, and his disdain for the Geneva Conventions in his writings and his public appearance prior to being confirmed. And some senators really put themselves out there by going ahead and voting for him. Right now, you're seeing the Senate Armed Services Committee united in saying that they want to investigate this, your own House Armed Services. Are you seeing Republicans more looking at this with a little bit more scrutiny in the aftermath of the Washington Post reporting?
Well, they have to be. They have to be. And I know that at least some of those senators had real misgivings about voting to confirm him in the first place, and frankly didn't do the right thing. They didn't have the courage to step up and just say, no, this is going too far. Well, this is the moment when we need to step up and say no as a Congress. And it's not enough just for Democrats to do that because we are in the minority. Republicans need to do it too. That's why I've put forward a piece of legislation that would prevent congressional funds from being used to prosecute a war in Venezuela. It would be the one thing that would actually prevent the president from even going in. We need to get Republicans on that legislation so that it can move forward, because otherwise, look, we've seen this movie before. It's called Iraq. We're going to go down a very dangerous path. And it's bad enough that we're probably killing innocent people in these boats. What happens when it starts being American kids dying in Venezuela for a war that the public doesn't want, that Congress has not authorized, and that the President and the Secretary of Defense are pursuing illegally?
Congressman, for Americans who may not understand all of this, the flurry of reporting and new details that we've received over the last few days, particularly that Washington Post reporting, can you help explain how significant it is if, in fact, the defense secretary is part of a chain of command that ordered this double tap strike here? The idea that there would be two survivors hanging off of a ship after an initial strike who are still alive, clearly not in a combative position at all, for the U.S. military to then take those two people out, if indeed they did do that. How significant is that?
I mean, it's just against everything we stand for in the United States. It's against everything the U.S. military stands for. It's against the Constitution. It's against the laws of our land. I'll tell you, one of my toughest days in Iraq was also one of the days I was most proud to be an American. We were in a very tough situation. A soldier was killed trying to go into a house, and I happened to be with one of the most highly trained members of our Special Operations Forces, and he went in. I was right behind him. He took out the person who had just killed our comrade.